Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And we have the episode today everybody wants to hear. Maybe you don't want to hear it. I don't know, but I'm going to tell you, you need to hear it because we're going to talk about how CEOs can get their time back. Who doesn't want more time, right? And I have a very special guest lined up who's going to help us do just that. We're going to get your time back and drive success. Two beautiful things. Before we go any further, Donna Dubé, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Okay, so big promise, not a lot of time. Let's deliver on this, right? So anchor me in this though, because I've talked to people on both sides of this fence where, as I mentioned, we do very similar work. And I've talked to people saying you need to reduce the number of time or hours you work in your business before you talk about scaling. And they're like, but I love working 80 hours a week and I just want to pull my hair out. So
yes,
tell me why we need to reduce our time before we scale our businesses.
Yes, for sure. So, for some of your listeners, they've probably been in the same boat that I was in. Start your business, working alone, solopreneur. It's great, right? Every hour you're there doing this and that, you get more and more and more. But as far as you're concerned, you're enjoying it. It's fun. You like it. Family, friends start to ask, are you going to have time to have lunch with us? Mom, are you going to be done the emails? And this is what happened to me when I started my business. And I was working 24/7. I didn't have a problem with it, but my family did. And finally, at some point, my husband came and said, listen, something's got to change here or this situation was going to break. And I was like, oh, it doesn't need to be that harsh. I'm doing okay. And so that's when I really had to step back and say, how can I grow this business without me having to be in everything, right? And yeah, the first off advice is hire somebody, but you have to put some things in place before you're ready to do that. And so if you don't set yourself up to not have to work 24/7, you're on a one-way track to burnout. Thankfully, I had someone who stopped me before I got to that point. I didn't see it coming, but it would come, right? And we don't want to get to the point where it's really critical and we have to stop our business. We have to be hospitalized. We don't want to go there. And so while you right now, you may be feeling, 80 hours is great. It fits with my lifestyle and everything. It's not sustainable. And I'm here to help business owners build sustainable businesses, not one that's going to burn you to the ground.
Yeah, amen to that. I've been there too in the past, and it sucks, right? Having someone else approach you and give you that sort of ultimatum is brutal, quite frankly. And it's either that or the hospital bed, like you said. Like there will be something that ends that run of 80-hour weeks, and we want to get there in advance. But I also see that most entrepreneurs who are in that situation, they even use it as like some sort of a drug, right? They're addicted to working so much, and they can't even see the forest through the trees to say, I am spending my time on the wrong things, which is why I'm working so much. So in this conversation we're having about working less, I mean, where do you find yourself starting with people to really show them where they're at in their business?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I like to do is a strategic to-do list. And where this comes from is imagining all the things that happen in your business, and they can fit into two buckets. One bucket's called maintenance, and the other one's called growth. So if we think about things in maintenance, it's like your invoicing, your bookkeeping, changing something on a landing page, sending out emails, social media content. Sure, that needs to be done in your business, no doubt. But we have to step back and question, does it have to be done by you as a business leader, right? Then the growth level task, this is where you're really seeing that return on investment. So your partnerships, your networking, creating new content, new programs, offers, services, teaching in someone else's mastermind, podcast guesting, right? You cannot delegate that to someone else on your team. You can't delegate that to some software tool. Those are things that have to be done by you. And that's where you see the highest return on investment. And so as business leader, you want to make sure that you're spending time each and every week in those growth level tasks. You want to make it a habit so that you have time blocked off in your calendar to do those growth level tasks. And that's where you're going to see that momentum and that build of your business. And so how we do that is really simple. It's called the CEO score. And so basically you look at what your revenue goal is for the year and divide that by the number of weeks you want to work. And that will give you a number. It's not a dollar amount that you're going to make or that you're going to pay yourself or anything like that. It's more about your energy and your sweat and your blood and your tears to get there, right? And so the higher the revenue goal you want, the more time you need to spend on those CEO level tasks. And this makes sense if you think about like a big business, right? Microsoft, Nike, Apple, like the CEOs are not in the weeds. They also have a lot of people underneath them to support them, right? And so they have a very different CEO score than you're going to have as a small business owner. But you can see that as your business grows, you need to spend more time on those growth level tasks. So that's sort of where we start. And then we take that to-do list and we hit it strategically. So no more cherry picking about, oh, I think I'd like to do this thing, or I really like that, and not hitting the list well. Start at the top and do one thing after another. No, we want to be strategic with the time that we have, right? So whether that's 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week, whatever you're devoting to your business, you want to be strategic with that time. And so we want to look at what are the things that are going to give me that return on investment, right? And it's usually things that are important, meaning they're revenue generating, and they don't have an urgent deadline, meaning they don't have to be done by next week, Tuesday, like your taxes, right? And so really by breaking up that long to-do list into 4 different quadrants called the Eisenhower matrix, we can see where we need to be putting our time as CEO, and then how we're going to delegate the other tasks. So some things we can delegate to a human, some things we can delegate to a software tool to help us automate, right? And some things, shockingly, we're going to stop. Because as business owners, we start piling on one thing after another, another strategy. Oh, my business bestie's doing this. Oh, I heard about this. I'm going to add that. But we don't step back and look, is this giving me a return on investment? Is this actually having the people who are seeing it take action? Whether that's joining your thing, buying your program, getting on your email list, whatever action you want them to take. And so if you're spending time doing a strategy and it's not giving you a return on investment, then let's stop.
Yeah, I love that advice. And it's so hard for people to hear too. I remember talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and they were spending hours a day on social media, on multiple platforms. And I was just, I threw out the question. I was like, why? And
Mm-hmm.
the answer was, well, because I have to be on social media to grow my business. And I was like, that's cool. That's everybody says that. I believe you to some
Mm-hmm.
degree. I was like, what sort of a return do you get from social media? And they're like, well, none really, but I think I have to be there. And you can see the certainty start to drop, right? So in that sort of a scenario, I'm a social media hater, so don't take advice from me. But in something like that, like how are you identifying what is the real revenue that comes from all these different activities? And then how do you start to work with your clients to prioritize? Like, okay, you're making effectively $2 to $3 an hour when you're on social media, but you're making $600 an hour when you send emails to like these particular clients. How do you
Yes.
approach that conversation and the
Yes.
strategy too?
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. It's a lot of times bringing that objective data, right? So exactly how much you're making per hour when you do that task versus something else. Because you're right. I'll get frequently from clients, but I like doing, right? I'm good at doing, right? And it's not that we want to take away what you like or what you're good at, but as business owner, you have to be strategic with what you do. And so when we bring it and say, yes, you're making this much an hour changing that Canva image, when you have a team member sitting over here who's significantly less per hour than you are, let's delegate that to the team member, right? Versus, you know what, you have a chance to go teach in someone's mastermind next week. You're just about to say no because you think your schedule is too busy. But that's where you're actually going to make much more per hour, right? The chance of having much greater return on investment. So let's get rid of some of those other things on your schedule so you have space to be able to say yes. So many times it's really about saying no in order to say yes.
Mm. Yeah, and that's where the drug comes back in, right? Because it feels so good to just work in Canva for 30 more minutes and get that font just, oh, so perfect.
Yes.
Um, we can
Yes.
make fun of this all day long. But okay, so
Yeah.
once we have our eyes opened now to where we're spending our time, how much we're making per hour, essentially, per activity, and you've developed the strategic to-do list. Then what do we do next? Because it's one thing to know, it's another thing to execute, and it's about
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's the long-term sustainable execution. So how do we get into the practice of doing that?
Yes, excellent question. So, what I like to encourage my clients to do, and what I do for my own business, is institute what I call a CEO Power Hour. So, you may have heard people saying, oh, I have a CEO date once a week or once a month, or sometimes when I think I should. But this is an actual only 1 hour, and it happens every single week. And it needs to be habitual. So, it needs to happen whatever day of the week you decide and whatever time you put it in your calendar, it's recurring. Nothing else gets in its way, right? It's just as important as that sales call. And you're like, okay, what do I do during that hour? So, what you do is three things: review, reflect, and prioritize. So, you're going to review where you are currently in your business. You're going to review the time you're spending, you're going to review what's happening. You're going to reflect on what's coming up, right? So, when you're reviewing, you're like, okay, here's my revenue goal. Where am I this month compared to my goal? Because yes, we want to be reviewing our revenue goal on a monthly basis, not waiting 6 months and saying, oh, I'm not going to reach my target. We want to be on top of that target, because when we're on top of it, we can do something about it, right? When we measure it, it grows. And so by measuring that revenue goal, now we can say, okay, I'm not going to meet my target for this month right now. What can I do? Maybe I can reach out to a few clients, right? Maybe I can do a flash sale. Maybe I can do a training and then sell off the back of that, whatever it is in your business. But that's where the strategy then comes in, that you as business leader can like, I can do this to get a boost in revenue. So staying on top of the revenue. The other metric I really encourage everyone to track is how new people are coming into your world. Because we so often will get in this feast or famine mode where, oh, I need clients. And so we're busy marketing. We get people in the door, we get clients. Now we're busy doing client delivery, and we might drop the ball on marketing. We're not doing as many of those activities. And then our pipeline dries up. We need more clients. Oh, back to marketing again. And so our revenue is like a roller coaster, right? We're not going to flatline our revenue by any means, but we can reduce that roller coaster by having systems and processes in place so that we're doing marketing every single week. We're on top of it every single week. And so by really looking at where am I, how many people am I getting into my business, is there a different strategy I can use to get people to know me? Am I nurturing people? So once they're in me, with me, how am I making that connection with them? Whether that's through email, whether it's through podcasts, whatever it is you have, but you want to be making that connection with them. And then am I actually inviting them to join me, right? To buy my program, offer, or service, whatever you have. And so staying on top of those and making sure you have a system that runs in the background is the next step.
I love that. And do you ever scale that up? That percentage of time you spend in your CEO hour? And like, what are the markers that you should actually be doing that more?
Yeah. So I keep it as just 1 hour to do that review and reflection. But then from there, you need to go to your calendar and put those important things in, right? Because if you're anything like me, if the priorities aren't in your calendar, you're not happening. And so how you decide, okay, what are my top 3 priorities this week? That's when we're going to go back to our strategic plan. What are my 12-month goals? Breaking that down to 90-day goals, breaking that down to monthly goals, because it's so much easier to chew one bite of the sandwich than the whole thing, right? So our big 12-month goals are huge. We can't sometimes think about what the next step is until we break those down. And so really doing that planning ahead of time so you know, what's my next step to get 1% closer to my goal.
Yeah, that's a great point. And something that I find too, I'm curious to hear your hack on this or your
Mm,
trick if you have one.
yeah.
So our clients all the time is what they'll do is we'll set up those 12-month goals, the 3-month goals, and what are the daily things we need to execute on. And they love it and they're jacked up and excited and their whole team's excited. And then 3 weeks in, their
Mhm.
team's still excited. Everybody's awesome. Everything's moving along. We're getting results. But the entrepreneur comes back and is like, you know what? I want to do this other thing now. And I'm like,
Mm.
you're being dumb again because that's not what we agreed on. We said consistent, sustainable execution, and you have a squirrel brain over here, and you want to change every 5 minutes. Um,
Yes.
how do you get people just even if you've done everything right so far, you have your CEO Power Hour? How do you get people to continue to focus on that one thing? Because sometimes it could be boring, but it is effective.
Yes, 100%. And I so hear you on this because it's so, so common, right? Visionaries have a lot of good ideas and they want to jump quickly from one thing to the next. But we need time to let our strategy build and get momentum to see those results. And so, what I encourage them to do is have what I call an idea parking lot. And so, it's either a Google Doc, it's in your project management tool, whatever you're using in your business, but it's an actual dedicated space. And when you get one of those ideas and you're like, oh, I really want to do this, we put it in the idea parking lot. Depending on who you have on your team, if you have a right hand person, when you meet with that person on the weekly basis, you bring it up. I've got this great idea. It's in the idea parking lot. Great. Does it fit and does it align with what our goals are right now? Most of the time, it doesn't. And so it stays in the idea parking lot. If it does align, good. Now we have to look at capacity. Does the team have time and capacity to be able to bring in another idea? Or are we going to have to let go of something to bring this in, right? That sort of discussion needs to happen with usually someone on their team because it's hard for them to do that themselves. But having that idea parking lot helps. And then what you do is every quarter, before you go to make that plan for the next 90 days, let's look and see what's in the idea parking lot. Because sometimes now some things fit. We're going to move something out of there. But really to have that holding space to put those ideas.
All right, Donna, be real with me. Is the idea parking lot
Yeah.
the trash can?
No,
Every now and
not at
then,
all.
if there might be some overlap. I don't know. Idea parking lot, suggestion box. They might all bleed together. Donna,
No,
I
we
love this.
honestly do look at it in the next 90 days.
No, I support that. That is a good idea. Well, actually, fun fact, something I've found along those lines. This is for me personally. Um, I've never called it the idea parking lot, but I have a like a Google Note on my
Yeah.
phone, and I'll put ideas in there and work off this same principle. Like it's not now, it's not within the goals, but I'll put it there. I actually don't look at what's on that list before I put something new in because I'll notice if I put the same idea in 3 or 4 times over the course of a quarter, that's a really
Mm.
powerful idea. If I don't touch it for 6 months, 8 months, and it's just there, maybe it never needs to be executed on. We could just throw it out. But um, that's similar to your idea
Yeah.
parking lot. But what are those things that are coming up frequently? Because those might
Yes.
might give you a clue about what to do next.
Nice that. Yeah, I like that.
This has been awesome. I really appreciate this. I wish we could go so much deeper, but you know what? The CEOs listening, they got to go execute. They got to go do these things. We can't keep talking to you about this.
Yes.
But Donna can. So Donna, where can we find more about this system and actually growing our business and getting our time back?
Yeah, thank you. So my website is ceoamplify.ca. And when you go there, you can find a little bit more about me and what I do. As well, there's a free resource, which is your CEO Power Hour playbook. And so if you've been listening and you're like, yeah, I want to institute one of those power hours, but I'm just not sure what to do, this is just a quick PDF that will walk you through each of the steps to do inside your power hour so you have effective time.
That's awesome. I love it. It's on the screen here if you're watching, if you're listening, it's both places. It's down in the show notes below, so you can go click over there. Check out the playbook and all about Donna on her website too. This has been fantastic, Donna. Thank you so much for being here. And I love to end these episodes with more power for the listener, with a powerful question, though. So we believe at What If, powerful questions get you powerful answers. And in terms of what we're talking about today, about getting your time back, scaling your business, getting more focused, What is that powerful question that you would want the listener to be asking themselves until they get the powerful answer about this topic?
Yes. Okay. So I think my question would be, if you were paid $1,000 an hour for the time that you work tomorrow in your business, what would you be doing for that $1,000 an hour?
That is a good question. I'm going to try to figure out a way to go get paid to sip martinis on the beach. Does that count? Am I on the right track?
Not quite.
Okay. I may have ruined your question, but in all seriousness,
No.
that's a fantastic question. I think if more people asked that and just waited and paused until they got the answer, you'd see some pretty significant business growth.
Yes.
Donna, thank you so much for being here. This was fantastic.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And for you listening, wherever you're watching or listening, make sure you subscribe. We love having you here. We love putting these episodes on 5 days a week to help you grow your business, get to that next level, and of course, get your time back too. What are we doing here? Work less, make more. It's not in the scammy way though. Like these are the real principles to go execute, make more money in your business and not work your life away. We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.